right, guys. This video has been long overdue. I've been pushing it away a little bit because it's quite a long video, but we're going to do it today because we're doing 3 videos. It is called The Greatest Dynasty That No One Talks About. This will be very interesting. We know Golden State was a dynasty until they kind of been cracking recently. This is another dynasty, a different dynasty. Before we get into the video, guys,
make sure if you haven't already, smash that subscribe and the follow button.
That's it.
Till 2025, they held the record for the best win percentage in NBA history. Their coach, Greg Popovich, is the winningest coach of all time.
Coach Popovich is not the Spurs. He's the NBA.
From 1997, when they drafted the best power forward ever.
You hear a lot of other people say Tim Duncan is the greatest power forward.
Tim Duncan!
I agree with that.
To 20.
Guys, do you think Tim Duncan was underrated or overrated? I think there's not enough. Like, considering how good people make him out to be, I don't feel like he gets enough shine. Like, people, when you talk about Tim Duncan, they rate him, they say he was sick, but he don't get the, you know, the same, like, what's the word?
No, it's true.
Attention, people like Kobe and these guys.
Recognition.
Yeah, recognition.
That's the word you're looking for.
He's only recognized when he's asked, when someone asks about him directly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Let me know what you guys think.
Even we don't really talk about him. When we're talking about top players, he doesn't come into our
There we
mouth.
go.
The San Antonio Spurs won 50-plus games in 17 consecutive non-lockout seasons.
They never beat themselves, and that is exhausting for the other team.
For 20 years, the Spurs were a synonym for excellence, discipline, teamwork, unselfishness, and finding great players in the draft.
We used to call it the program.
But how did the Spurs maintain that level of success for that long? This is the story of the Spurs way, and how one small market team became the longest tenured dynasty in NBA history.
Oh my God.
The Spurs were founded in Dallas in 1967 and were named the Chaparrals, competing in the ABA. In 1973, the franchise relocated to San Antonio and was renamed the Spurs. 3 years later, they were one of 4 ABA franchises that joined the NBA when the leagues merged. But unlike the Pacers and the Nets, who struggled for years after joining the NBA, the Spurs hit the ground running, qualifying for the playoffs in 7 consecutive seasons. Led by the Iceman, George Gervin, the Spurs made 3 conference finals in that span, with Gervin winning 4 scoring titles. However, when Gervin and center Artis Gilmore got older and left the team, San Antonio missed the playoffs for just the 2nd time in franchise history. But in return, they won the ultimate prize for all losing teams, the #1 draft pick in the 1987 draft.
The San Antonio Spurs select David Robinson from Navy.
After serving 2 years in the Navy, the Admiral finally arrived and immediately transformed the franchise.
Yo, man went from the Navy to NBA, you know. He was tall, though. Do you see how tall he was in comparison to his other players? Oh, refresh again. Let's hold up for a sec, guys. Let's hold up. My one's working fine. Now it's paused.
Is it?
No. Yeah, my one's working fine. My one's working fine, guys.
I think because we're in.
Nah, it should cut off that as well. Guys, we here? We good? W in the chat if we're good. L, well, not L in the chat. Yeah, we're good. Okay, good.
The Spurs won 56 games in 1990, which was 35 wins more than the previous year, and set the record for the biggest turnaround in NBA history. With Robinson, Terry Cummings, and Sean Elliott, San Antonio became a perennial contender. But they could never get over the hump and make the finals. The Admiral was winning all individual awards.
Oh my God.
But even with the addition of Dennis Rodman, the furthest the Spurs went was the conference finals in 1995, when they got destroyed by Hakeem and the Rockets.
I mean, I don't even know how I can say it with a straight face, but I thought most of the time I defended him pretty well. The man just played, I mean, as well as I've seen anybody play in a long time.
But then, in the 1996-97 season, everything changed. Due to the season-ending injuries to Robinson and Chuck Person, the best shooter on the team, the Spurs lost 15 out of their first 18 games.
Oh, that is poor.
Yeah,
that's a very bad record, especially for a team that was like basically a dynasty.
After which, Coach Bob Hill was fired. In his place came a little-known guy named Greg Popovich.
I'm honored to have the opportunity to accept this challenge and work with the Spurs. And the only guarantee I'll make is that I'll work with every fiber of my body to make the situation more successful than it already is.
who had previously worked as a general manager of the team and had no head coaching experience at the highest level. The Spurs finished the season with just 20 wins, but it was a blessing in disguise.
They saved it a little
because
bit.
They got lucky once again, winning the draft lottery for the second time. Coach Pop knew all along who he wanted to select with the first pick, but before he made the final decision, he did something extremely unusual, flying over to the U.S. Virgin Islands to meet the best collegiate player in the country. Over the next 3 days, a 21-year-old big man and a 48-year-old coach spent the entire time on the beach, talking about life, family, priorities, almost everything except basketball. But when he returned to San Antonio, Popovich knew that Timothy Theodore Duncan was the right man for his franchise.
The San Antonio Spurs select Tim Duncan from Wake Forest University.
So it really strengthens us rebounding-wise, shot blocking, overall defense, obviously, and he also can score. So it brings back another scorer on the court. So it makes us a pretty dangerous club because we can attack from a lot of angles.
In the 1998 season, Duncan immediately proved that Pop chose correctly, averaging 21 points, 12 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks on 55% shooting. The Spurs won 36 games more than the year before, which broke their own record for the biggest single-season turnaround in NBA history. Timmy won Rookie of the Year, made first-team All-NBA, and finished 5th in voting for MVP and DPOY.
Wow.
And to say that he had a dominant rookie season would be an understatement. But after they defeated the Suns, the Spurs lost in the second round of the playoffs to a much deeper Jazz team. Pop then realized that his team was strong under the basket, but lacked shooting. So, for the 99 season, he added veteran marksmen Mario Elie and Steve Kerr. With Elie and Kerr, Duncan and Robinson had reliable targets to kick the ball out after a double team. And because the Twin Towers averaged a combined...
The Twin Towers, they call them, they're both tall. You can see them literally like sitting next to each other. I'm mad.
5 blocks per game, the Spurs...
Oh, Steve Kerr's the Warriors coach. I was thinking I recognized the name. Yeah, that makes sense. I think he'll come up. If not, we can find him on Google.
Impenetrable inside the paint, leading the NBA into...
Hold on, let's rewind to Steve Kerr.
Marksman Mario Elie and Steve Kerr.
The name was familiar, and I was like, it makes sense.
With Elie and Kerr, Duncan and Robinson had reliable targets to kick the ball out after a double team. And because the Twin Towers averaged a combined 5 blocks per game, the Spurs were impenetrable inside the paint, leading the NBA in defensive rating. In a lockout-shortened season, San Antonio led the NBA with a 37-13 record and was even more dominant in the playoffs. The Spurs lost just 1 game in 3 playoff series, finally reaching their first NBA Finals. In the championship round, they played the New York Knicks, who barely made the playoffs, and became the first 8th seed to reach the finals. To make things even worse, the Knicks lost Patrick Ewing due to an Achilles injury, and without their best player, New York had 0 chance against the post-up powerhouse that was Tim Duncan. Timmy averaged 27 points and 14 rebounds on 54% shooting, and he and the Spurs defense limited the Knicks to just 79 points per game, winning the series 4-1. Duncan was the finals MVP, and after the series, Coach Pop tried to console the losing coach, Jeff Van Gundy. "I've got Tim and you don't. That's the difference."
Damn.
In the 2000 season, Duncan and Robinson were named to both the All-Star and All-NBA teams. But after Timmy suffered a knee injury late in the season, the Spurs couldn't cope with the Suns, losing in the first round of the playoffs. In 2001, the Spurs once again dominated in the regular season with the best record, best defense, and with Duncan finishing second in MVP voting behind Allen Iverson. And
it's a shame to see when...
He was the youngest to get MVP, wasn't he? Allen Iverson.
Oh, good question.
I think he was the youngest guy to get MVP.
Chat, look, remind us. No, Derrick Rose.
Okay, cool.
Allen Iverson was the other guy we reacted to who was like an icon from, I think he was from Philly, I think. What was I going to say? Made me lose my trail of thought. It was a good question. We'll come back to it.
Third in voting for Defensive Player of the Year. In the first 2 playoff rounds, the Spurs easily defeated Minnesota.
I was going to say, it's a shame where defense is with NBA right now compared to back then. Back then, defense was so much more valued. Now it's just who can score the most 3-pointers or who can... Like, offense is the best form of defense right now in NBA, in my opinion. Back then, defense was a lot more needed. What do you guys think?
And Dallas, but in the conference finals, they had no answer for Shaq and Kobe as the Lakers swept the series.
Monsters.
With the retirement of small forward Sean Elliott, who spent 11 seasons with the franchise, the looming retirement of David Robinson, and the overall old age of the team, Popovich realized he needed to inject new blood into the team and surround Timmy with younger players. Enter Tony Parker. The skinny French point guard was a complete unknown for the majority of the NBA, and everyone was in shock when the Spurs selected him with the 28th overall pick.
The San Antonio Spurs select Tony Parker of Racing Club Paris.
Back then, the rest of the league thought European players were soft and unfit for the NBA. But the Spurs thought differently, putting more value on fundamentals and basketball IQ that European players honed since they were kids. Now, the Spurs owner, Peter Holt, wasn't a poor man, but he wasn't rich either, at least when you compared him to other billionaire owners. Like the NBA version of Moneyball, Holt, Popovich, and assistant general manager R.C. Buford had to think outside the box to find quality players, because they didn't want to overpay established stars. And they weren't a desired destination for top free agents. Even though the rest of the league looked at scoring and athleticism as primary values, the Spurs' way was different. They've put more emphasis on attributes like players' intelligence, cultural fit, and the potential to learn. And because other teams weren't looking for these things, there was less competition for these players, who were available for less money. Other than scouting players in Europe, the Spurs also heavily relied on player development. While star players were certainly better if you wanted to win immediately, they often came with an ego. On the other end, when you get a player who still has to prove himself, then you could teach and mold him to buy into the team concept, which was one of the main postulates of the Spurs way. One of the Spurs' greatest assets has been Chip Engelland, the best shooting coach in the league, who morphed many players into great shooters. With Holt, Popovich, and Buford having tremendous working relationships and trust in one another, the franchise leadership was top-notch, far superior to other franchises, where owners, coaches, and general managers were often pulling in different directions. RC and I have done everything together, says Popovich. From day one, we've done everything together, and our groups have done everything together. Managers are in coaches' meetings, we're in the managers' meetings, and walk in as we please. We talk about it, argue about it, have a beer or wine, and move on. We've done it all together. With such a great structure at the top, the Spurs rarely missed the target in the draft, and they never added players who didn't have the necessary attributes for their system. And after they drafted Parker in 2001, they also added a second-year wing Steven Jackson and Bruce Bowen, who was the epitome of the Spurs' way of finding talent. Bowen went undrafted in 1993, and then bounced around Europe and the NBA for almost a decade, until the Spurs recognized that his gritty defense and shooting ability would fit like a glove next to Tim Duncan. And soon, Bowen would unofficially become the first 3-and-D player in NBA history. In the 2002 season, Tim Duncan had the best year of his career, averaging 25.5 points, 12.7 rebounds, 3.7 assists, and 2.5 blocks per game, finally winning an MVP award. But even though the Spurs won 58 games and had the second-best record in the NBA, they once again fell to the Lakers, losing 4-1 in the second round. After the 2002 season, R.C. Buford officially became the general manager of the franchise, adding a player who would prove to be one of the best draft choices in NBA history.
With the 57th selection, the San Antonio Spurs select Manu Ginobili from Argentina.
Back in 1999, the Spurs drafted Manu Ginobili with the 57th pick. And just like with Tony Parker, nobody had any idea who
Oh, trust me, the guy butchered it, and I butchered it straight after, repeating what he just said.
I sit at home, I watch the draft, and we pick people that I've never heard of. Sitting there, Emmanuel Ginobili. Who did we just pick? I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna be great. He's this. He's okay, Pop, whatever.
But in the next 3 years, Manu became the best player in Europe, winning every possible trophy in the second-best league in the world, and also leading Argentina to a silver medal at the 2002 FIBA World Cup, beating the USA in the group stage. Buford, who first scouted Ginobili, saw that his prized talent was ready to come overseas, and Ginobili joined the Spurs for the 2002-03 season. After a somewhat disappointing rookie season, Tony Parker blossomed in year 2, and it probably wouldn't have been possible with any other franchise. Not only because nobody else would have even drafted him, but they wouldn't allow an unproven rookie to make mistakes next to the league MVP. But the Spurs were different, starting Parker and playing him 29 minutes per game in his rookie season. So when the 2003 season came, Tony was ready. Stronger and better adapted to the NBA game, Parker was one of the fastest players in the league, improving his averages to 15 points and 5 assists per game, becoming the second leading scorer on the team. With Ginobili, Popovich was losing his mind because Manu played purely off instinct. He was completely unpredictable and moved at a frenetic pace.
You know what? Back then, obviously, they were trialing like the European players.
Yeah.
They just started bringing them in. It must have been quite a shock for NBA players because I'm assuming the play style will be very different. So, you know, NBA players are used to playing against NBA players. So now they're getting the Europeans sprinkled into their teams. They're thinking, this guy's different, man. Like, he don't play like us. Like, it's just different, isn't it? So that must have like spiced it up a lot.
Half the time, even he wasn't sure what he was going to do next. Manu was making crazy no-look passes that no other player would even think of, let alone try in a game. But even though it drove his coach crazy, somehow there was a method to Manu's madness, because it worked. He took 5 years of my life away. At first,
I feel like a lot of these European NBA players now, they are unpredictable.
Oh yeah, Jokic, Luka.
Like they all have that similar play style, don't you think?
Like the pass just slips off out of nowhere and you're like, huh?
And their court IQ is very good as well.
High. And that's like they said, with Spurs, they favoured intelligence and court IQ and stuff. So they felt like the Europeans had that. The NBA stars had the athleticism and the raw talent.
But the Europeans are that court IQ.
Yeah, it's just different, isn't it? And that's what made it so exciting.
First, I thought he was crazy, but then I realized I couldn't change him, and I just let him play his way. He shortened my life, but he brought a dose of unpredictability.
He shortened my life.
Probably stressing.
With the emergence of Parker and Ginobili, along with young point guard Speedy Claxton and forward Steven Jackson, the Spurs had a great mix of youth and experience, with veterans such as David Robinson, Steve Kerr, and Steve Smith. But in the center of everything was Duncan. At the age of 26, in his 6th NBA season, Duncan was at that sweet spot where athleticism and experience meet, resulting in another MVP year, with averages of 23 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 blocks per game. Timmy led the Spurs to the best record in the league, but after they got past the Suns, in the second round awaited their arch nemesis, the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, who defeated them in the previous 2 seasons. However, this time, the Spurs were deeper and better balanced offensively and defensively, defeating the Lakers in 6 games. In the conference finals, the Spurs beat Dirk and the Mavericks in 6 games to advance to their second NBA Finals, this time against the New Jersey Nets. And even though the Nets had the best point guard in the NBA in Jason Kidd, and a gritty defensive team that played well together,
he's very good.
They didn't have anyone who could stop Tim Duncan. In the deciding Game 6 of the series, Duncan had 20 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists, and 8 blocks, nearly getting a quadruple double in what was one of the best finals games of all time. The Spurs won the championship.
And now this. Congratulations, San Antonio, for your 2003 NBA champion, San Antonio Spurs.
With Duncan averaging 24, 17, 5, and 5, completely dominating on both ends of the court. After the season, David Robinson and Steve Kerr retired, and Steven Jackson left after the team rejected his wish for a big contract. And even though many analysts disagreed with this move, as Jackson was a vital member of the team with plenty of heroics in the fourth quarter, Pop often clashed with Stack, and he felt that no player was above the team and the Spurs' way. Despite losing 6 different players from their championship roster, the Spurs' culture was based on finding who could seamlessly fit into their system. And that's why they added 2 more European players in Hedo Turkoglu and Ratko Nesterovic, as well as Robert Horry, one of the most clutch shooters in history. And the results didn't suffer. In 2004, San Antonio had the best defense and the 3rd best record in the NBA. They swept the Grizzlies in the first round, but in the second round, they once again faced the Lakers, who were ready for revenge. With 4 future Hall of Famers on their roster, LA proved too strong for San Antonio, winning the series in 6 games. In 2005,
Lakers, man. Lakers back then were too dangerous. That Kobe and Shaq combo.
But even now, Lakers are a good team.
Now they're amazing.
Now. They've got LeBron, they've got Luka, AR.
You know what it is? Growing up in the UK, obviously, as you guys know, basketball is very, unrecognized here compared to countries.
It's not as popular.
It's not popular at all, yeah. But the one team I knew existed was Lakers. For some reason, yeah. Like, it's just... I think loads of people in the UK just knew of Lakers.
The only team I knew existed was Chicago Bulls.
Fair enough. I only knew Lakers.
Do you know why?
I've seen Bulls, but I didn't know. Like,
did you watch that show Keenan and Kel?
Yeah.
Did you guys watch the show Keenan and Kel? That's the only reason why I know about Chicago.
There we go. Keenan and Kel, yeah.
Bulls.
That was a sick show. Loads of people in the UK loved that.
The team was mainly unchanged, with the big four of Duncan, Parker, Ginobili, and Bowen leading the charge. Duncan's numbers decreased across the board, as Popovich became the first coach to load manage his superstars, realizing that he didn't need to overuse his star players in the regular season to win 50-plus games. 4 of his main players averaged 32 minutes per game, which had 2 benefits: more rest before the playoffs,
more injuries,
and more minutes for role players, whose confidence grew as a result. San Antonio finished the season with 59 wins, and the best defense in the NBA for the 4th time since Duncan arrived, never finishing outside the top 3. But for the first time since they drafted Timmy, the Spurs didn't need Duncan to be their best scorer to win games. In the first round against the Nuggets, Manu led all players in scoring. In the second round against Seattle, Duncan was again the big dog, but Parker and Ginobili weren't far behind. And in the conference finals against Phoenix, the Spurs' big 3 averaged 70 points per game combined, defeating the Suns in 5 games to advance to another NBA Finals. In the finals, they played the Pistons, and it was a bar fight. With the 2 best defensive teams in the league going head-to-head, the 100-point mark was only reached once in a tough 7-game series. But then, in Game 7, Duncan took matters into his own hands, confidently announcing to the team that they weren't going to lose the series. Timmy led all scorers with 25 points, and with 23 points from Ginobili and big 3-pointers from Robert Horry, the Spurs prevailed, winning Game 7 81-74, with Duncan winning his 3rd Finals MVP.
Oh my God.
In 2006, the Spurs won 63 games, the best result in franchise history. And in the playoffs, after they defeated the Kings in 6 games, San Antonio played the Mavs, who had assembled a phenomenal roster around Dirk Nowitzki. And even though their big 3 averaged 73 points per game, the Spurs bench wasn't up to par, and the Mavs advanced after 7 games, despite a monster 41 points, 15 rebounds, and 6 assists from Duncan.
You know, back then, to hit like a 40-point game was so like rare because of how good the defense was. And obviously the rules were slightly different now. Like, you see guys just banging 40-point games. Like, obviously you don't see it all the time, but like, it happens. Do you know what I mean?
You see a lot of like over 30 points.
Over 30, yeah. Like,
I wouldn't say from everybody, but
the star players,
they can hit that.
In Game 7. After a down year, we've seen many franchises try to completely reshuffle the deck and change half the roster. However, the Spurs aren't most franchises, and being erratic isn't the Spurs' way. For the 2007 season, San Antonio kept all their core guys and simply added a few more international players like Fabrizio Oberto, Beno Udrih, and Francisco Elson. And it paid off. The Spurs had an impressive 58 wins, the best net rating in the league, and the deepest roster in the NBA, with everyone contributing and every player feeling like they were an integral part of the team. Their biggest threat in the West, the Mavericks, famously lost in the first round against the We Believe Warriors. And in the second round, the Spurs escaped victorious against the 7 seconds or less Suns, after a controversial suspension of Boris Diaw and Amari Stoudemire for Game 5 of the series. And even though it wasn't always pretty, and naysayers saying they played slow, boring basketball, the Spurs didn't care. And after they defeated the Utah Jazz, they were in the finals once again. This time they played the Cavaliers and the 22-year-old LeBron James, who miraculously dragged a group of innocent bystanders to the finals. But even though LeBron was a phenom and the best player in the series, his team was arguably the worst that ever made the finals. With all 5 Spurs players focused on stopping James, nobody on the Cavs outside LeBron averaged more than 12 points per game.
That's so deep. All they have to do is focus LeBron, they win the game.
Yeah.
And San Antonio easily won the title in 4 games. With 24 points on average, Tony Parker led all players in scoring, becoming the first European player to win the Finals MVP. With 4 titles in 8 years, the legacy of the Spurs dynasty was complete. But they weren't done yet, even though it started to look like they were. Despite winning 50-plus games year after year, the playoff success they'd become accustomed to disappeared. In 2008, the Spurs lost to Kobe and the Lakers in the conference finals. The next year, the Mavs defeated them in the first round of the playoffs. And in 2010, the Suns swept the Spurs in the second round. finally avenging all those losses in previous years. In 2011, San Antonio won 61 games in the regular season, but after another first-round playoff exit against the Grizzlies, many people wondered if this was the end of Timmy, Tony, and Manu. At the beginning of the 2012 season, Duncan was 35 and Manu was 34. In a game against the Sixers, Duncan stayed on the bench, and Coach Pop hilariously cited the reason he didn't dress.
Yeah.
Even though two members of their big three were older, the Spurs weren't ready to be scrapped off at the junkyard. The first reason for that was Tony Parker, who was 29 years old and had entered the prime of his career.
If you play the whole quarter, it'll be 29 minutes.
Yeah, but I'm fine. I didn't play for 3 days, Pop. I'm 29 years old.
Get back out.
Even though he was always fast and a
That's
good
very
ball
cute.
handler, Parker was
I like that relationship they got.
Yeah, I love
Really
that.
not much of a shooter in his early years. But after years of working with Chip Engelland, Parker developed into one of the best mid-range shooters in the NBA. His spin move layup was basically unguardable, and Tony's floater was as pure as spring water.
And let's just put this out there. 35 was considered really old. LeBron
For athletes.
for basketballers.
Yeah.
LeBron
Even
is
a football,
40
that's
going on
super
41.
old.
Yeah, super old. LeBron's 40 going on 41.
He's like ancient.
He's ancient
Yeah.
compared to the old.
But this is
rated.
why I said LeBron is very inspirational. He is in top shape.
I was
He's
gonna say,
so
he's in better
active.
shape than all these guys in their mid-20s.
Yeah, he's so athletic. Like, I want to be like that when I'm 40.
Yeah, I think a lot of people aspire. It's
Yeah.
hard to achieve that.
He
at that
inspires me a
age.
lot.
Parker became one of the most efficient point guards in the NBA, and in 2012 he finished 5th in MVP voting, making the All-NBA second team. However, the biggest reason for the Spurs revival wasn't Parker, but a guy with a weird laugh
Kawhi.
and the biggest hands you'll ever see, Kawhi Leonard. To get Leonard, the Spurs traded Pop's favorite player, George Hill, and to let go of a locker room favorite and a steady backup point guard didn't seem like a wise decision. At that time, Kawhi was an unproven player, a tweener not big enough to do damage with his back to the basket, and technically not good enough to create from outside positions with an unreliable shot. But Popovich was determined to get a new Bruce Bowen, who could guard anyone and hit an occasional spot-up three. Once Kawhi was installed in the starting five midway through his rookie season, he never let go of that spot, and Popovich got much more than just a new Bowen. He got a monster.
Yeah.
Even as a rookie, Kawhi was able to lock up most opposing wings and steal their lunch money with quick lateral movement, pterodactyl arms, and those huge mittens. But it was surprising how efficient he was, working tirelessly to improve his shot as maybe the best protege of Chip Engelland's school of shooting. Other than Kawhi, in true Spurs fashion, they also found other pieces that were overlooked by the entire league. Patty Mills was selected with the 55th pick, Danny Green with the 46th, and Boris Diaw was drafted 21st overall. Even though none of those players were drafted by San Antonio, they bounced around the league without anyone realizing their true potential. Mills was playing in the Chinese League before R.C. Buford signed him, and Green played in the G League before Popovich turned him into a 3-and-D sniper. Diaw was also forgotten in Charlotte before the Spurs scooped him up after realizing he was one of the best playmaking forwards in the NBA. Add in Brazilian center Thiago Splitter and sharpshooter Matt Bonner, the Spurs way did it again, rebuilding their bench and finding value where others didn't. Just like the year before, the Spurs finished the 2012 season with the best record in the West, and in the playoffs they swept the first two rounds against the Jazz and Clippers. But then in the conference finals, they ran out of steam against the potent OKC Thunder with KD, Russ, and Harden.
That was a solid three, man. KD, Russ, and Harden.
That was a mad team.
And they were young as well. They were on
Yep.
it. They had their primes.
In the following season, with a more seasoned Kawhi, Danny Green, and the rest of their role players, the Spurs emerged as the best from the West, losing just 2 games on their way to another NBA Finals. But against the Miami Heat, they faced the best player on the planet and the best team in the regular season. And despite LeBron's greatness, the Spurs were up 3-2 in the series and were up by 5 with a minute left to play in Game 6. NBA representatives had already started rolling out the red carpet and bringing the Larry O'Brien trophy when a desperation 3 by LeBron cut the Heat's deficit to 2.
Ooh.
In the following possession, the Spurs hit just 1 of 2 free throws, which gave Miami a chance to tie.
Rebound box, back out to Allen, his three-pointer, bang! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining!
Miami miraculously survived and won Game 6 in overtime. And in Game 7, Tim Duncan failed his team for maybe the first time. Timmy missed a close layup that would have tied the game. And in the next possession, LeBron hit a game winner over Kawhi to clinch the title for Miami. Ginobili played badly in the finals, Duncan was 37, and most analysts believed that this was the last hurrah and that the Spurs missed their final opportunity for a championship. But once again, the Spurs kept doing Spurs things. They added another European shooter, Marco Bellinelli, and started featuring Kawhi more in their offense, along with completely revamping their playing style, which showed the true genius of Greg Popovich. In the first decade of the Tim Duncan era, when Timmy was in his prime, the Spurs dragged games into the mud, playing at a slow pace, funneling opponents to the middle of the paint, and letting Duncan protect the rim. In the second part of Duncan's career, when he no longer had that same agility, the Spurs embraced the pro-European pace and space system that turned the former ugly duckling into a team that plays the most beautiful basketball in the league.
We saw a game of Spurs. Their passing was elite.
It was the teamwork. That was elite.
Like, it don't matter about how good you are as a player, as long as you can pass and fit their vision and work as a cog in their engine, you can be part of that team. You don't need to be a superstar top player. It's just play the basketball that was taught to you. That's it.
Playing an extra pass, find the open man, give up the good shot for a great shot offense, and hard-nosed defense defined the new era Spurs. It is pretty much a European style of play of basketball, as far as everyone has a role and everyone contributes. Everybody has got to be able to pass, and everybody has got to be able to think about the game and play defense the right way. It's not like, okay, we have a shooter and that's the only thing he can do. Everyone on the Spurs has to be able to do everything. I think in Europe, that philosophy starts at a young age. Boris Diaw. Pop is an innovator. He leads the charge in a lot of areas of coaching, especially at this level, said Coach Mike Brown, a member of Pop's staff from 2000 to 2003. He does not rest in terms of thinking about the past. He's always thinking about what he can do to change and make the Spurs better going forward. And while the rest of the NBA thought the Spurs were toast, the Spurs toasted the entire NBA. They once again had the best record in the league, with the best net rating, even though their best scorer, Tony Parker, averaged just 16.7 points per game. However,
just to add, someone said it in the chat now, I think Baba Sai was saying literally Warriors is true, because Steve Kerr, who played for Spurs, is now the manager of Warriors, so he's trying to replicate that passing. And whenever we watch Warriors recently, we say, yeah, the basketball
we also
they
talk
play
about the
is beautiful.
teamwork,
the chemistry, like,
and it makes sense because Steve Kerr played
in that
Spurs,
era.
Yeah,
he wants to replicate that,
and it worked.
It does work, yeah.
in an egalitarian system.
Oh, I think you might have knocked it.
Yes, you knocked it again.
Put it in. You got it?
Oh, the whole thing came off.
Yeah, because you move your legs around, you're kicking wires down there. Fats' his specialty. She loves this shit.
Is it playing?
Where everyone...
Give it a sec. Hold on, guys. Fats just destroyed it.
Just 16.
We're back. We back. Watch your feet, all right? Watch your feet. Damaging the reactions, yeah? People want to watch. Ready?
Yeah.
0.7 points per game. However, in an egalitarian system where everyone gets the same opportunity to dribble, pass, and shoot, the Spurs had 8 players scoring more than 9 points per game, which made them impossible to guard. San Antonio defeated Dallas, Portland, and OKC to reach another NBA Finals, again faced the Miami Heat. But this time around, the Heat had no chance. With their quick passes, ball, and player movement, Miami's trapping defense didn't work because they simply couldn't rotate fast enough. The Spurs shot 53% from the field and 47% for 3 in the finals, beating Miami in 5 games and celebrating their 5th NBA championship. Thanks to a suffocating defense and unreal shooting percentages, 61% from the field, 58% from 3, Kawhi Leonard was deservedly named the Finals MVP. But this title was special because it was a complete team effort, with San Antonio playing arguably the most beautiful basketball in NBA history. In the following season, Duncan made the All-NBA team at the age of 39, and Kawhi blossomed into a star, winning Defensive Player of the Year.
Sick.
But the Clippers, with prime CP3 and Blake Griffin, found a way to finally overcome San Antonio in 7 games. Next season, the Spurs did something unusual. For the first time in their history, adding a marquee player through free agency in power forward LaMarcus Aldridge. San Antonio won a franchise record 67 games, with the 3rd best net rating in NBA history. But after they got past the Grizzlies, they couldn't get past the Thunder. And in that series, Tim Duncan played the last game of his career. It's nearly impossible to find a player who has been as important to a team's personality and success as Duncan's was to San Antonio's. It's pretty unusual that a team adopts the personality of the franchise player. The problem is that the personality and the philosophy of the franchise player are not always great.
Guys, what do you think about that statement that he's like, they can't replicate getting a player who has the same personality impact on the team? Where do you agree with that statement? Basically, is what I'm trying to ask you guys, because based on what this video has been saying and what I hear about Tim Duncan, whenever people talk about Tim Duncan, I can see why that's said. He was the guy, like, they adapted the whole Spurs around him, but it just worked beautifully. I felt like Cavs done that with LeBron, but because of LeBron's play style,
LeBron had to
it was more to pick him up rather than to just work.
I agree with the statement. Like, there will never be another
Tim Duncan in that sense.
Yeah,
I agree.
The thing with Tim is that he was such a great teammate and team player and focused so much on winning and playing the right way that the franchise turned into his character, and it's been a good thing for the team for a long time. Boris Diaw. But even with Duncan gone and Tony and Manu at a combined age of 73, the Spurs again won more than 60 games in a season. Kawhi Leonard, who continued to improve year after year, averaged 25 per game and was slowly but surely transforming into the best player in the NBA. Kawhi was Duncan 2.0, a calm, no-nonsense guy who's all about hard work and helping his team win. The Spurs made the conference finals against the mighty Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, but despite all that talent, it was Kawhi who was the best player on the floor in Game 1. The Spurs held a 21-point lead in the 3rd quarter, and one dirty play changed the course of their franchise. Zaza Pachulia planted his foot in Leonard's landing area
when he got injured
his ankle, and was out of the series. The Spurs got swept without their superstar, and though they didn't know it yet, it would be the last playoff game Kawhi ever played for San Antonio.
That's so
sad. In the
sad.
2018 season, Kawhi couldn't heal from a quad injury.
Zaza, man. I'm seeing all the comments in the chat about Zaza. When I get my hands on you, you piece of shit. How you do that to our boy Kawhi? Kawhi is the man.
Yeah, but our team is Golden State.
Yeah, I know, but forget that. He destroyed talent.
No, yeah, it's true.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if someone done that to Cristiano Ronaldo and ruined like 90% of his career and not allowed him to be who he is, like, do you know what I mean? People
No, but he's
be
playing
pissed.
now, no?
Huh?
Isn't Kawhi playing now?
Yeah, but he's not. Like, he missed out so
Yeah,
much, and
obviously,
they
he
lost
missed out.
that. They fucked up there as well on the.
Who knows? Maybe if
game.
Kawhi was playing, Golden State probably wouldn't have won.
Who knows?
And grew unhappy that the Spurs rushed him to play. After 9 games, he stopped playing and stopped communicating with the team, after which San Antonio was forced to trade him. Even though they made the playoffs in 2018 and 2019, the Spurs dynasty was over after 20 years of sustained excellence, led by great...
Chat, why did Kawhi, obviously he had his injury, he didn't play much more. Why did he kind of fall out of love with the Spurs? Or was it because of how they dealt with him being injured? Like, what's the story? There must be a backstory. I don't know if we've covered that or not, but if we haven't, let us know.
Ownership, intelligent hiring, a world-class coach, and the best power forward in league history, the Spurs were winning for 20 years straight, which was unheard of in the NBA, especially in the era of salary cap and player empowerment. The only comparable dynasty to theirs is that of the New England Patriots, led by Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Just like the Spurs, the Patriots had 20 winning seasons thanks to unshakable leadership, great ability to find and develop talent, a complete unison between their coach and franchise player, and a culture that allowed no messing around, with no player being above the team. With the Spurs, the greatest example of supreme culture and sacrificing for the benefit of the team is Manu Ginobili.
That was what I was trying to say. Sorry to cut you off there. Like, with LeBron and the Cavs, like, LeBron was better than the team. Do you get it? So they done everything to just empower him even more.
Yeah.
But like he became bigger than the Cavs. Do you get it? And that's the issue.
That's why he left Cavs.
That's why like Golden State and what the Spurs were doing here and what Golden State currently does. They obviously Curry's very big. You can't stop it because of how talented he is. But they try to make it an even playing field where you don't need to be a Steph Curry to fit in. You just need to be good enough and fit in with our mechanism, and we're good with the passing and all that.
Agreed to come off the bench, even though he could have been an all-star anywhere else. But the Spurs way was a culture of selflessness, lack of ego, a culture of work and responsibility. And that's why they were the longest dynasty in NBA history. Thank you for watching.
Good
and
video.
If you like this video,
very well put together.
Beautiful video. Loved
What
that.
did you think of the dynasty there?
Loved it. It was beautiful basketball. That is literally what teamwork should be.
Facts.
And
And
yeah,
how
there will never be
basketball should be
another Tim
played.
Duncan.